Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I want to give you, ladies and gentlemen, a health update as I've been pretty absent as of late. So, for those who have been following me for potentially a prolonged period of time, you will possibly know that I have a myriad of health issues. And what happened was on July 6, 2014, I suffered a serious back and probably neck injury while playing soccer, and I was essentially unable to walk or stand for basically 6 months, excruciating pain ever since, and the problems have never gone away. I am on long-term disability, and I have been since 2014 when I was 24 years old, and every day I'm just in horrible amounts of pain, and that's probably the reason why I started doing content creation, because I just kind of need something to do to a certain extent. And it's been a challenging and frustrating journey because I've essentially lost my identity. Prior to getting injured, I was actually quite athletic, outgoing. Maybe I'm kind of outgoing to a certain extent now, but I had a very different lifestyle back then. And I've had to make a big personality shift, change, and adjustment because nowadays the basically every other thought that goes through my mind is how much is this action going to hurt me. So I have to think if I'm going to go walk to the bathroom, is it worth it, so to speak? Can I wait a bit longer? That sort of idea. Every step I take causes great pain in my back and my neck, and I do as much as I can. I've seen a myriad of different specialists like orthopedic surgeons, neurologists, psychologists, psychiatrists. You basically can name it. I've probably tried it in some way, shape, or form. I've done various spinal injections, many different kinds of injections. I've done most things, and unfortunately nothing seems to work, and the current diagnosis is just chronic pain. All I'm told to do is basically just find a way to make your current life livable. There's no real hope of getting better, and that's something that I was told maybe 7 years ago, maybe. I don't know. It's been a long time, and I probably still kind of fight that notion, but at this point in time, I feel like I'm just kind of giving up and accepting that this is unfortunately going to be my life for the rest of my life, so to speak. And it's depressing to say the least. My mental health is not so great. My physical health is not so great. Most days, I can't accomplish very much. Today, I live in a condo and there's a gym. I'm actually the third closest unit to the gym, so maybe 35 steps to the gym. I can only utilize a stationary bike with a backrest. It's one of the ones with basically a chair. So I can sit in that, but pedaling it hurts my back. The fact that I have no head support hurts my neck. So I was only able to do 10 minutes, and I was in so much pain I just have to make sure I get back home, so to speak, even though I'm not that far away. And then by 11 a.m., I'm kind of exhausted, and it's I almost feel like I just want to go to bed. And I woke up at a pretty reasonable time, so to speak. So it's just a frustrating cycle, and it gets challenging to kind of do things I want to do. And that's kind of the situation I am in currently. Nothing has necessarily changed, although I guess one positive health thing is that I have been seeing an ocular oncologist, which is an eye cancer specialist, for 7 years maybe, because they found a lump in my eye. Shouldn't be there. We've tried surgery to remove it, was unsuccessful. Couldn't do a biopsy because it's inside my eye, but luckily that lump itself has not been growing. It looks like there's been minimal change in the yearly checkups I do with that specialist. So perhaps that's the only kind of good news I have, in the sense that it looks like that lump is benign. So I guess there's just one less stress. But the problem is I have all these other hosts of problems. So that's kind of where I'm at this point in time health-wise. And because of all that, it makes me unmotivated to do things. Just imagine being in extreme pain all the time. Think of how productive you're going to be during that moment. It's challenging sometimes, and streaming is helpful, but part of the problem is I've lost the magic of pad, so to speak, because Puzzle and Dragons was a game that I actually was able to play before I got hurt, so perhaps I kind of held on to that so strongly because I just wanted something of my old life to not change, because everything else changed for the worse, and I obviously did not like that. But with pad, at least at the beginning, it was incredibly fun. It was wonderfully addictive. The gameplay loop was solid. The gacha was, I guess, probably gacha games were, I guess, newer, so to speak, back then. And it didn't feel as predatory compared to nowadays, in the sense that you could gain cards that were farmable, a couple of rare machine cards you obviously have to roll, but you could make do with quite a few farmable things. And the rate of power creep, the rate of new and powerful stuff coming out was much slower, so you had the chance to actually invest and grow attached to your characters. For myself personally, I used Sakuya for a prolonged period of time, and that's probably why I have reasonably strong matching skills, because I was forced to match 4 specific combos in a brief period of time, along with other stuff along the way. But that's no longer the case nowadays. You get a card that's good now, cool, it's great. Maybe it can beat the current endgame dungeon, but then within like a couple of months, it gets power crept and you have to do it all over again. So you don't have that like kind of connection to characters. And like, yes, we do get more magic stones, but that also means you have to roll more often. Like, it's an interesting cycle, I guess, so to speak. But more so, the point of the matter is, I find that gacha games are just simply predatory by nature. Like, they definitely prey upon FOMO. They will just constantly release a mechanic and then release a new card to counter that mechanic. Otherwise, if you don't get that new card, you're going to have problems. Fujin was probably the first major start of that sequence, so to speak, in the sense that like you now have a way to press a button to counter damage control. Before, you could to counter damage absorption. Before, you actually utilize things like damage control to kill things like Sopdet in Arena 1, 2, or 3. But nowadays, if you don't bring the specific direct active skill counter to a mechanic, you die. And on top of all that, there are so many different mechanics nowadays that are hidden because there's no information in pad. We still don't know how much health an actual spawn has, when it's actually important, because if you push something below a certain threshold, you might just get executed. You don't know until you try, and that's not a good game design, considering the fact that a run could take 20, 30, 40 minutes to only die to something that you just didn't know existed at the very end. It's not a good feeling. And yes, I'm well aware that there could be guides for certain dungeons out there, but it's still not a game that you can pick up and play and put down compared to what it was before. Yes, you still had to like do things, but the amount of research you had to do beforehand was trivial compared to what you have to do nowadays. Because nowadays, I feel like if you want to tackle endgame content, you have to bring absolutely everything, including the kitchen sink, and even then you might encounter a mechanic that you just couldn't deal with because you didn't have the right character. So I feel like current pad is more gimmicky and nowhere near as fun, along with the fact that you're kind of encouraged to play dungeons over and over and over again for a drop that might get invalidated within a couple of weeks or months. It's not the greatest gameplay loop, because when you think about it, you could, at least for myself, I could just simply play another game and get a full actual game experience. And that's mostly what I kind of do, at least nowadays, because I'm much more into the like roguelike genre as a whole. And roguelike games, I guess, are reasonably new as well, and the basic premise of a roguelike game, let's use a roguelike deck builder, because I feel like a deck builder people can conceptualize a bit easier. Because like with a deck builder, you start with a generic deck of cards, and then over the course of the game, you add cards to the deck, improving it, take out the existing weak cards, so on and so forth, until you build something that is strong and powerful. Now, in the situation of a roguelike deck builder, you have, say, a pool of, let's say, 100 different cards, and during the run, after every encounter, you will be given a draft of, say, 3 cards. You get shown 3 cards, and you pick 1 to add to your deck from that pool of 100. You don't know what you're going to get. You just have to basically adapt and tweak and adjust your build and strategy as new rewards come in. And then there's usually something along the lines of like relics, artifacts, or like just passive effects that kind of sit outside of your deck that just give ongoing benefits. And again, the relic pool could have like, say, like 50 different relics. You don't know what you're going to get. It's all about like picking combinations and synergies and just putting it all together, so to speak. And that whole experience can be done in like an hour and 90 minutes, and you go from basically 0 to hero, and then when you complete a run or fail and die, you just start again from the very beginning with that basic deck of cards once more. And that concept of games, I find, is incredibly fun because it's engaging, it's fast, and you buy the game once, you own it for life. For the price of one Pad Pass month subscription, you can get a full amazing game, essentially. Maybe 2 months of Pad Pass and you can get an outstanding game, because the roguelike games that I currently love and enjoy at this point in time are Balatro and Peglin, at least at this point in time. But I've played so many things like Slay the Spire, Monster Train, Across the Obelisk. A lot of these are deck builders. Across the Storm, a roguelike city builder. I'm looking at Monster Train 2, but I'm hoping it's just going to go on sale before I will pick it up. But Other games that I do currently enjoy, aside from Peglin and Balatro, are Heroes of the Storm, because I have a couple of friends that I play with, and like it's kind of relaxing and enjoyable. It's almost like a social thing for me because I can't really leave the condo, so to speak. I don't leave the condo. If I see my dad once a week, and that's like the only day I actually step outside beyond like little walks around the neighborhood. That's just kind of my life at this point in time. So that social aspect of HOTS is wonderful. And I've also started getting back into Civilization 6 because, again, a few real life friends do play it, and it's, again, just something fun and enjoyable to do together. And then the last thing I'm playing at this point in time is Fire Emblem Engage, because Chip, or Melvin as I know him, he plays Pad and writes guides sometimes, he lent me his cartridge, so I'm enjoying Engage. It's not as engaging as Three Houses, but it's still enjoyable enough overall. And I obviously do play board games. I do have a 3D printer, which you can kind of see in the back, and I do print like terrain or like inserts for my board games, but that's kind of what I'm doing at this point in time. And then what do I do from here, I guess, is a good question to ask myself, because I kind of see the world in black and white, which I've been told is not good by psychologists and psychiatrists, but it's good in this sense because it's either I decide to stop living or continue living. That's kind of like the two options I've had, because like hence the strong depression that I've had for a long time. And I've chosen the still living path, which is good. And I need to obviously do things like to make it meaningful overall. So one thing that I found helpful for myself and why I started like the whole Mantastic'c pad persona is that it gave me kind of some sort of purpose, some sort of identity, something to do, and then also like interaction with people. So I feel like with Pad, I still am going to play it like here and there, but it's just nowhere near as interesting or exciting as it used to be. But at the same time, I don't know what other kind of game I should make content for. Do I try to become like a variety streamer? Do I try and just review games? Like for instance, let's say Peglin. I go on about like what Peglin is like and then just do a playthrough. Would that be something of interesting? Like I have a large variety of games because I actually have a Steam family with my real life friends, and there's a lot of options of things I can try and play. So I don't know, like something like that seems like something that's interesting to me, where I kind of just like give you an overview of a board game, I guess, or a video game, and then play through it and just give you an idea of like, is this something that you find interesting? I'm not quite sure what I want to do, but I feel like just turning on my webcam, talking to people is something that's good for my mental health. So I feel like I want to still try and do things, but at the same time, I don't quite know what I should do. But with that being said, thank you so much to all you lovely ladies and gentlemen for listening to me for the past 13 odd minutes. Like, it does help to essentially like vent my struggles, frustrations, because saying them out loud does kind of admit that they are real, but they are real. So by kind of talking about it, at least it kind of gets it off my chest, because I've been almost like actively avoiding doing this sort of thing because it just doesn't feel good kind of admitting that things are not going well, but I think it's for the better that I do. So, with that being said, hopefully all you lovely ladies and gentlemen have a truly fantastic day. I wish you best luck in your own gaming adventures, and happy puzzling. I can still say